Why is calling someone a fool such a serious offense? And they quote Matthew 5:22.
Okay, in that passage, that starts off in Matthew 5:20, and it's Jesus is basically what he's doing is he's going through and he's showing the Jewish people who he's speaking to how they are not keeping the law. Okay, you had a bunch of people in Israel during this time, including the Pharisees, who thought that they were actually keeping the commandments. And what Jesus does is he's making the point here that the commandments are not just an outward restraining yourself from doing the things that are disallowed in the Ten Commandments, but an inward issue also. And so it's not just what you do on the outside, it's what you're doing in your heart. And so he says in verse 20, "For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you'll by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder." That's literally, thou shalt not kill. And what Jesus is doing is letting you know that prohibition is not just killing, it's murdering somebody. And so killing in warfare is not necessarily murder. Executions are not necessarily murder. Killing of animals is not murder. And so it's murder that's being spoken about in that passage. And he says, "And whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire." And then he says, "Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift before the altar, go your way, be reconciled, and then come and give your gift. Agree with your adversary quickly." And so what Jesus is doing is he's going to first causes here. And so people generally are not just walking along and just decide, okay, I'm going to murder somebody. Usually what's taken place, and you can tell this by talking to anybody who's in law enforcement. If they come on a murder scene, the first suspects are always going to be somebody who's close to the victim. It's going to be a family member. It's going to be a boyfriend. It's going to be a husband, a wife. That kind of thing. And that's who they're looking at first, because murder involves emotions, almost always, and murder is something that has to do with hatred and despising people, that kind of stuff. And that's what Jesus is talking about in this passage when he says, "I say to you, whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment." And murder comes from anger, and especially unjustified anger. He says, "And whoever says to his brother, Raka," that's a word that literally means you worthless fellow. It's the idea of you're less than human. That kind of attitude towards somebody is in danger of the council. But whoever says, "You fool," shall be in danger of hellfire. And again, it's that despising of people that Jesus is talking about in this situation. Okay, now let me back this off a little bit, because Jesus uses the term fool in the book or in Matthew later on in chapter 23. And he talks about the scribes and Pharisees and tells them that they're fools. In the Old Testament, in the book of Proverbs, there are a number of proverbs that speak about a foolish man and what a fool will do and what a fool won't do. And the difference between what Jesus is talking about in chapter 5 here and what he does in Matthew chapter 23 is the fact that he's not just going around calling people names. He's actually identifying an issue that's taken place in the life of a person that's turning against the things of God. The fool has said in his heart that there is no God, it says in the Psalms. And that is not just going around, walking up to people and saying, "You're a fool," that kind of attitude. It's the description of a heart that's turned away from the Lord, and obviously that is a foolish thing. And so the context here is what gives you the importance and the point that Jesus is making regarding the terms that are being used here. It's not just the term, It's the attitude that's used with the term, and it's what leads to murder. And so you can murder somebody in your heart without ever pulling out a knife and stabbing them. And that's the point that Jesus is making there.